Well, with me now, former associate counsel to President George W. Bush, Jamil Jaffer, former deputy Pentagon press secretary under President Joe Biden, Sabrina Singh, and CNN political commentator Sir Michael Singleton. Glad to have you on. You already heard Bolton giving a rough timeline of what he thinks. No one really knows the answer, but of course Trump. But this is another Hegseth and Signal scandal. I go back to Hollywood, right, and thinking about you're on a need-to-know basis. Why would this particular group of participants be on a need to know? We're talking about his wife, his brother, his lawyer, about military strike plans.
It's hard to know why they would need to know that. It does appear this Signal group was set up before he was confirmed to try and give him advice on his confirmation and the like. And he may have just been in the habit of sending them information about what's going on at the Pentagon to get advice. This seems like the wrong thing to be sending information out about. Certainly unwise. Whether it's illegal or not, different question. Definitely unwise, not a smart play, could put people in danger if the wrong person's in that chat. And we've already seen reporters who didn't mean to be in a chat in the PC small group as well.
I mean, we've seen this movie play out recently in terms of a Signal scandal. But the idea, you heard Panetta, what he said, Sabrina, the idea of attack plans, of course, targets and weapons. Now, the administration, this is not classified information, but that category of information is particularly serious and sensitive.
Well, that type of information is classified before an operation begins. So if what is being reported is that the secretary put this information in both of these Signal chats, one with his wife, his brother, his personal lawyer, and then one with the entire national security apparatus that Mike Waltz started, any information before an operation has begun is classified. Doesn't matter what the secretary says about it. It's classified information. You have fighter pilots up in the air. They're there, sometimes hours before an operation begins. Then you have the secretary detailing when the bombs are going to drop, when the Tomahawks are going to deploy, when the F-18s are going to be up. All of that, I can tell you, I've looked at the TikTok at the Pentagon. It's all completely classified. So what the secretary did is put our fighter pilots at risk and our sailors at risk that are in the Red Sea conducting those operations.
How are we back here again, Sir Michael? And of course, the White House trying to offer some semblance of an explanation and defense, knowing that Trump is still publicly backing him. I mean, this is more than political if you're talking about the safety of our esteemed members of our service.
Sure. I mean, look, the mission was successful, and I think that has to be acknowledged. Two, this occurred around the same time as the first incident. Mike Waltz, the National Security Advisor, did acknowledge, like, hey, we made a mistake here. We got to make some changes. Even the president, which he rarely ever does on camera, acknowledged, like, hey, we got to improve this process. From my understanding, they have since done that. Now, we'll see what happens over the next couple of weeks. But remember, the administration spent a ton of political capital trying to get Hegseth confirmed. I do not believe the president is in the mood or temperament to remove this guy less than 100 days in. We'll see, again, what happens over the next, several weeks. If this occurs a third time, fourth time, then I think some things may change. But if this is all in the past and they've learned from it, they're communicating differently, they've made some reforms, which you should do when you make errors and mistakes such as this, I think that's a step in the right direction.
Well, from Signalgate to this larger issue, Sabrina, because you've got Hegseth's former top Pentagon spokesman, John Olliott, who quit last week, as you recall. He wrote in a scathing op-ed the following, that the Pentagon is, quote, in disarray under Hegseth's leadership. Now, he called it a month of total chaos. How does this impact the morale and the ability and efficiency of people at the Pentagon when all this is happening, in addition to that statement?
Yeah, I think when you have the Secretary of Defense firing, senior leadership around him, and those senior leaders have been coordinating on, whether it be major operations all around the world or just general management of the building, the military, what makes our military so great and so effective is that it thrives on order and processes. And so when you disrupt that, that injects chaos into a system that doesn't like chaos. We like order and being able to conduct our operations with the people that have been involved with them from the beginning. So, I saw that op-ed, and I think, yes, there is a tremendous amount of damage that has been done to the institutions there. But you have to remember that if these people were fired because they, disclosed classified information, they're technically being held accountable for it. And the person that's not being held accountable is the Secretary of Defense.
Well, on that point, Jamil, I mean, the statements that have been made by Secretary Hegseth has been about, I'm paraphrasing him, disgruntled aides, people with axes to grind. We've seen this play out in prior administrations, including the Trump administration, where the accusation is that your axe to grind undermines your credibility fundamentally and fatally. Does this give you pause when you hear statements like it's in disarray under his leadership and you have other things talking about? Is the politics more, or is this about truth?
Well, look, I mean, John Elliott was also just demoted, right? And so he may very well have an axe to grind. He was defending the Secretary of Defense just 4 or 5 days ago,
right,
and now he's coming after him in an op-ed while he's saying he's still really loyal to him. So you got to wonder about that. But on top of that, you've got all these people right around headsets, around the Deputy Secretary of Defense, key senior advisors, the Chief of Staff, the Deputy Chief of Staff, a senior advisor, all being fired simultaneously. This is not a good look in any administration. This one, another administration, just makes it chaotic itself, right? Regardless of whether the entire building's in disarray, this number of firings is brutal and makes it hard to get your job done.
You worked for Dr. Carson in the first administration, Jermichael, and obviously a notable Washingtonian here, focusing on what administrations do to function efficiently.
Sure.
How do you view this?
I mean, look, operationally, to your point, efficacy matters. And my hope is that the secretary is stepping into this, getting comfortable with the role, realizing maybe I brought some of my old friends who were very loyal to me to the points that you made that may not have been the best individuals for the job. I think oftentimes you'll find people think, well, I'm going to bring folks who I trust, who I know. They're going to help me succeed as a leader. And you realize pretty quickly that they may not be the best individuals to help you succeed. And so I'm hoping that's the realization that the secretary is having, and he's going to make those changes in the course correction moving forward to bring on more capable, qualified people so that he can be successful at the job.
Well, if he himself is the one they're questioning of capability, that'll be a big question. And of course, the big one on everyone's mind, do you have the same grace for a second administration, second term? We'll have to see. Yeah. Thank you, everyone.